Today I am going to explain these topics in the first chapter for class 12. The first topic is properties of charges. Properties of charges. So we know that we have two types of charges. Two types of charges. So two types of charges. They are positive charge and negative charge. Positive and negative charge. So protons in a substance or in an atom, protons are the positive charges and electrons are negatively charged particles. And these charges, like charges repel. Second point is like charges repel and unlike charges attract to each other. Like charges, they are a positive and positive charge. Say suppose positive charge and positive charge are separated at certain distance, two positive charges. So these two positive charges repel to each other. So with the same amount of force, repel to each other. And are two negative charges. These are also the like charges. Two negative charges also the like charges. So these like charges repel to each other. Whereas unlike charges, that is one positive charge and then one negative charge. These are called unlike charges. So these unlike charges attract to each other. So like charges repel and unlike charges attract to each other. Charge is a scalar physical quantity. Charge is a scalar physical quantity. And next one, charge is invariant. Say fourth point is charge is invariant. So invariant is nothing but no change. Even though if a charged particle is in motion, there is no change in the magnitude of charge. So that is due to motion there is no change. No change in the magnitude of a charge even in motion or due to motion. So no change in the charge due to motion of a particle. Next, sixth point, charge is additive. Charge is additive. Additive means, let us assume that a body of regular shape or irregular shape, whatever it may be. So this body contains 1 plus 1 coulomb plus 3 coulomb plus 5 coulomb, 3 positive charges, and let us imagine some negative charges also, minus 2 coulombs, minus 4 coulombs, so minus 7 coulombs and so on. So like this, usually every matter, every material, every substance contains atoms. Each and every atom contains equal number of positive charges and negative charges. Suppose in the last video I explained methods of obtaining charged bodies. So by rubbing one over the another or by placing in contact or by the method of induction, so a body, it is not a neutral body, it is a charged body. So additive property explains that the charge, the total charge of this body, additive means to know the charge on the body, we should add up all charges contained in the body. They are sum of the positive charges as well as sum of the negative charges. See here, the net charge on the body Q is equal to plus 1, minus 2, minus 4, plus 3, plus 5, minus 7 coulombs. See, plus 1, plus 3, plus 5, plus 9, minus charges, minus 2, minus 4, minus 6, minus 6, minus 7, minus 13. So that it is minus 4 coulombs is the net charge on the body. Minus 4 coulombs. So that is, this charge is a negatively charged body. Negatively charged body of magnitude Q is equal to minus 4 coulombs. So this is the meaning of charge is additive. Charge is additive means to know the effective charge on the body, we should add up all the charges inside the body. That is, charge is additive. And next, charge is conserved. Charge is conserved. Conservation of charge. Total charge in the universe remains constant. Charge neither created nor destroyed, but it can be transferred from one body to another body. That is, say for example, when a glass rod is rubbed with a silk cloth. So it is a silk cloth. When these two rubbed one over the another, glass rod gains positive charge, that is, it loses a certain number of electrons. Whatever the electrons lost by the glass rod, the same number of electrons gained by the silk cloth. So that the charge on the glass rod is positive charge, say plus Q, and on silk cloth minus Q. So system, the net charge of the glass rod and silk system, that is effective charge is equal to 0 or total charge is equal to 0. Or in case of atom contains total positive charges at the center, that is called nucleus, and electrons are revolving around the nucleus in a particular orbits. So every atom contains equal number of positive charges and negative charges. So therefore net charge on an atom is equal to 0. So here we can transfer the charges, that is electrons, from one body to another body, but net charge, total charge in the universe remains constant. That is the meaning of charge is conserved. Next, 8th point. Charge is quantized or quantization of charge. Quantization of charge. That is, the minimum transferable charge from one body to another body is always an integral multiples of electron charge or integral multiples of a fundamental charge or a fixed charge. That is, the minimum transferable charge from one body to another body. Let us assume that Q is equal to plus or minus NE, where N is equal to 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 and so on N. This is, Q is the minimum transferable charge from one body to another body. That is plus or minus Ne. That is, we can transfer 0 electrons from one body to another body, or 1 electron we can transfer from one body to another body, or 2 electrons can transfer, 3 electrons can transfer, 4 electrons can, like this. Integral multiples of the charge, fixed charge, and E is equal to electron charge, that is minus 1.6 into 10 to the power of minus 19 coulombs is the charge on electron. This is called quantization of charge, or let Q is equal to 1 coulomb, where coulomb is the SI unit of charge. That I will explain later. If Q is equal to 1 coulomb, then N is equal to Q divided by E, that is equal to 1 coulomb divided by 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 magnitude of a charge on electron. So that implies N is equal to 6.25 into 10 to the power of 18 electrons. That is 1 coulomb of charge contains, 6.25 into 10 to the power of 18 electrons. So that is 6.25 into 10 to the power of 18 electrons charge is equal to 1 coulomb. So this number of where coulomb is the SI unit of charge. SI unit of charge. SI unit of charge is coulomb. C, capital C is the symbol. And in CGS system of units, in CGS system we have 2 units for electric charge. They are stat coulomb and ap coulomb. These are the CGS units of electric charge. In electrostatics, CGS unit of charge is stat coulomb, or this is also called ESU, electrostatic unit. And this is ap coulomb is the CGS unit of charge which is used in electromagnetism. Next point is when a charge is given to a body, or particularly a conductors, semiconductors or insulators. Conductors are nothing but the substances which allows the charge to pass through them easily. Human body, all metals are the examples for conductors. Semiconductors are they allow very less amount of charge carriers. And insulators, the substances which do not allow the charges to pass through them are called insulators. Rubber, plastic, porcelain, wood are the examples for insulators. For semiconductors, silicon and germanium are the best examples for semiconductors, naturally available semiconductors. Even carbon also the example for semiconductors. For carbon, it has high thermal conductivity than electrical conductivity. So, when a charge is given to a conducting bodies, entire charge accumulates onto the surface, and this uniformly, for example, charge is uniformly distributed on symmetrical shapes. For example, a hollow sphere or a solid sphere, whatever it may be. When a charge is given to a symmetrical shapes, the charge distributes equally, uniformly throughout the surface. So that is surface charge density sigma is directly proportional to 1 divided by r square. So sigma is inversely proportional to r square, where r is the radius. Whereas if charge is given to uneven surfaces, say for example uneven surfaces like this, at the sharp edges more charge accumulates onto the sharp edges. This is in case of symmetrical shapes. In case of symmetrical shapes, charge distributed uniformly throughout the surface, whereas in case of non-uniformly distributed. So more charge accumulates onto the surfaces where radius is peak or sharp edges. More charge accumulates at the sharp edges. Coulomb's inverse square law is the next topic. First of all, we should know about the statement. Coulomb's inverse square law states that electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between the two charges is directly proportional to product of the magnitudes of the charges and inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. And this force is always acting along the line joining the two charges. That is the statement. Explanation. So, let us assume that when two charges, see, this is one charge, say plus q1, and second charge plus q2, plus q1 and plus q2, like charges. When like charges are separated at certain distance, say small r, at certain distance small r. Here they repel with a force. So F bar is the electrostatic force of repulsion between the two charges. And here, if one charge is negative and second charge is positive, unlike charges. When unlike charges are separated, so at certain distance, say r, they attract with a force F bar. Attract with the force F bar. Say if two like charges are separated, they repel to each other, and if unlike charges are separated, they attract to each other. So according to the statement, F, electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between the two charges, is directly proportional to product of the magnitudes of the two charges and also directly proportional to 1 divided by r square, or that implies F is directly proportional to q1 q2 divided by r square, or F is equal to k into q1 q2 divided by r square, where k is proportionality constant, where k is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught, that is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9 Newton meter square per Coulomb square is a proportionality constant. So this proportionality constant was estimated by giving different sets of values for q1, q2 and r. By giving different sets of values for q1, q2 and r, k is estimated each and every time. So that is, this is the constant, k is equal to 9 into 10 power 9, and here epsilon naught is called electrical permittivity. Electrical permittivity. So, electrical permittivity of free space. Free space is nothing but air or vacuum. When two charges are separated at certain distance, say r, in air or vacuum, so this is the force F. So that we can write, finally we can write here, force of attraction or repulsion can be written as 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R square is the force, electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between the two charges when they are separated in air or vacuum at a distance small r. Suppose if the charges are separated in any other medium is nothing but other than air or vacuum, then electrostatic force of attraction or repulsion between the same two charges can be written as F dash is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon into Q1 Q2 divided by R square, where epsilon is equal to epsilon naught into epsilon r, or epsilon is equal to k into epsilon naught. Here epsilon r or k is called relative permittivity or dielectric constant. Relative permittivity or dielectric constant, that is epsilon r or k is equal to, epsilon r can be written as epsilon divided by epsilon naught, that is equal to, where epsilon is absolute permittivity of the medium. Absolute permittivity of a medium divided by permittivity of free space. So this is the definition for relative permittivity or dielectric constant. K is defined as the ratio of absolute permittivity of a given medium to the permittivity of free space. This epsilon r or k is the decides the magnitude of the force in a medium. For air or vacuum, or for free space, epsilon r is equal to 1. For insulators, epsilon r or k is equal to infinity. And for semiconductors, it lies between 0 and infinity, 1 and infinity, excluding 1 and infinity. Relative permittivity definition in terms of forces. When two charges are separated, say Q1 and Q2 are separated at a distance r in air or vacuum or free space, we know that F air can be written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R square. Whereas the same two charges are separated, Q1, Q2 are separated in medium at same distance r. Then force between them, F in medium, can be written as 1 divided by 4 pi k epsilon naught K epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R square, or F air divided by F medium is equal to, see here 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught cancel. So here 1 by 1 by k remaining, 1 by 1 by k, and Q1 Q2 by R square, Q1 Q2 by R square cancel. 1 by 1 by k becomes k, that implies k is equal to F in air divided by F in medium. This is the another definition for dielectric constant or relative permittivity in terms of forces. That is, relative permittivity is defined as ratio of electrostatic force between two charges in air or vacuum to the force, electrostatic force between the same two charges when they are separated at certain distance or same distance in medium. That is, K or epsilon r is equal to F in air divided by F in medium. This is the definition for relative permittivity or dielectric constant. Here, permittivity or relative permittivity, whatever it may be. So, permittivity epsilon. Permittivity is nothing but it is a parameter or a medium parameter which decides the magnitude of a force between the two charges. Suppose when two charges are placed at certain distance, say r, in air, we will get some value for force, say that is F. Same two charges at same distance, if we placed in any other medium, we will not get the same force as earlier what we get in air. That is, force in air is not equal to force in medium for same set of charges at same distance. So, which means medium parameter, that is permittivity, decides the magnitude of a force. And this permittivity also explains the how many lines of force, electric lines of force can pass through that particular substance. That electric lines of force we will discuss in the next video. Next, Coulomb definition. Coulomb is the SI unit of electric charge. Coulomb or unit positive charge. Definition. According to Coulomb's inverse square law, according to Coulomb's law, F in air is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R square. When two charges Q1 and Q2 are separated at a distance small r in air or vacuum. This is the force. Let Q1 is equal to Q2 is equal to 1 coulomb and R is equal to 1 meter. Then F in air is equal to 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into 1 divided by 1 square. That is equal to 9 into 10 to the power of 9 into 10 to the power of 9 newtons. This is the force. Here epsilon naught value, epsilon is equal to 8.854 into 10 to the power of minus 12 coulomb per Newton meter square. Epsilon naught value. Epsilon naught is the permittivity, electrical permittivity of free space. Epsilon naught is equal to 8.854 into 10 power minus 12 coulomb square per Newton meter square. And this is, now from this discussion, so we can define the Coulomb. So Coulomb definition. Coulomb is defined as So if the two identical charges are repelled with a force 9 into 10 to the power of 9 newtons when they are separated at a distance of 1 meter in air or vacuum, then the two charges are said to be equal to 1 coulomb separately. That is the definition for 1 coulomb or unit positive charge. Next one is Coulomb's law in vector form. Coulomb's law in vector form. Let us assume that this is the Cartesian coordinate axis, x-axis and y-axis, and here let us imagine that the two charges, so Q1 and here Q2, Q1 and Q2 are the two charges. Position vectors. Position vector of Q1 is assumed as R1 bar and position vector of Q2 is assumed as R2 bar. And distance of Q2 from Q1. Distance of Q2 from Q1, that is R21 bar, where say notations R21 bar. R21 is distance of Q2 from Q1 or distance of Q1 from Q2 R12 bar. But here both are equal. R21, magnitude of R21 bar is equal to magnitude of R12 bar. Now these two, if these two charges, for example, if Q1 into Q2 is greater than 0, Q1 into Q2 is greater than 0, then these two forces repel to each other. This is F, and here also F magnitude same, but force due to Q2 on, force on first due to second charge, F12 bar, and here F21 bar. Notations. Yes, here R12 bar is equal to minus of R21 bar, but modulus of R12 bar is equal to modulus of R21 bar. Distance, that is R12 is the distance of distance of Q1 from Q2. R21 is distance of Q2 from Q1. According to Coulomb's inverse square law, now you can write F12 bar is equal to, where F12 bar is force on Q1 due to Q2. F12 bar can be written as 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R21 bar square. R21 bar, modulus of R21 bar square into R21 cap, where R21 cap is equal to unit vector R21 bar divided by modulus of R21 bar. This is the unit vector in the direction of R cap, R bar, R21 bar. This is the vector notation. Or we can write it as F21 bar can be written as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R12 bar magnitude whole square into R12 cap. So this is the, and but F12 bar is equal to minus F21 bar, or magnitude of F12 bar is equal to magnitude of F21 bar. So these are the vector form. This is Coulomb's inverse square law in vector form. Coulomb's inverse square law in vector form. Or here you can write this as F21 bar, force on Q2 due to Q1, can also be written as 1 divided by 4 pi epsilon naught into Q1 Q2 divided by R12 magnitude of R12 cube into R12 bar. If we can write R12 bar, the denominator we should take cube. Unit vector if we can take square as usual. So this is the Coulomb's law in vector form. And here, according to triangle of vector addition, R1 bar plus R21 bar is equal to R2 bar. According to triangle of vector addition, or R21 bar is equal to R2 bar minus R1 bar. Similarly, R2 bar plus R12 bar can be written as R1 bar, or R12 bar is equal to R1 bar minus R2 bar. As next topic is superposition principle. Superposition principle. See, this superposition principle is used to estimate the resultant force when multiple charges are present in a region. So, between two charges, to know the electrostatic force between two charges, we have Coulomb's inverse square law. More than two charges, 3, 4, 5, 6 and so on. If more than two charges are placed at certain region, to estimate the force on any particular charge due to all other charges, we can use superposition principle. According to superposition principle, net force acting on any one of the charges is equal to vector sum of the individual forces between that particular charge and remaining charges. That is, let us take here the few charges. Let us assume that it is Q1 and say here it is Q2 and Q3, like that. Let us imagine three charges. So with respect to origin, R1 bar is the position vector of Q1 and R2 bar is the position vector of Q2, R3 bar is the position vector of Q3. Now, force between Q1 and Q2. First of all, distance of Q2 from Q1, that is R21 bar, and distance of Q3 from Q1 is R31 bar. Distance of Q3 from Q1, R21 bar is distance of Q2 from Q1. Now, force between Q2 and Q3, if these two are positive charges, like charges, so they repel to each other. Let us take this is F12 bar. Force on Q1 due to Q2. Similarly, force on Q1 due to Q3, that is F13 bar. F13 bar is the force on Q1 due to Q3, F13 bar. So that here you can write F12 bar is the force on Q1 due to Q2 and F13 bar is the force on Q1 due to Q3. So net force, two forces are acting here. Two forces are acting, so that net force, that is F1 bar is equal to, where F1 bar is the net force acting on Q1 according to superposition principle, F1 bar is equal to algebraic sum of the individual forces, that is F12 bar plus F13 bar, like this. Suppose if there are n charges, n different charges are there. For n different charges, we can write it as F1 bar can be written as F12 bar plus F13 bar plus F14 bar plus and so on plus F1n bar, where F12 force on Q1 due to second charge, F13 force on Q1 due to third charge, F14 force on Q1 due to Q4 or fourth charge, and so on. F1n is force on Q1 due to nth charge. And this is the superposition principle. Superposition principle. And superposition principle can also explain that, see, F12 is the force between 1 and 2. Then F13 force between 1 and 3, force between 1 and 4, and so on. What about force between 2 and 3, force between 2 and 4, force between 2 and 5? So the remaining forces, F23, comma, F24, and so on, comma, F2n bar, and F34, comma, F35, comma, and so on, and similar like this. All these forces are negligible according to superposition principle. While we are estimating the net force acting on any one of the charge, that particular test charge and another charge, that two force between the two charges only we should consider. All other forces should be neglected. That is the superposition principle. And next one, force due to multiple charges. Force due to multiple charges. So as we discussed earlier, it is superposition principle, same as it is. You can take same diagram. Say Q1 is one charge, R1 bar is the position vector, and Q2 is another charge, R2 bar is the position vector, and Q3 is third charge, R3 bar is the position vector of Q3, and force between 1 and 2, this is F12 bar, and force between 1 and 3, so that is F13 bar. Similar, same diagram, same here. This is R21 bar and this is R31 bar, like this. The same diagram. Directly I can write because complete explanation already gave in the previous topic, superposition principle. So when multiple charges are placed according to superposition principle, directly we can F1 bar is equal to F12 bar plus F13 bar plus and so on plus F1n bar, or F1 bar can be written as, so here K into Q1 into summation I is equal to 2 to n, see second decimal 2 to n. So here Qi divided by Ri1 is the formula, or we can write here square into Ri1 cap. So this is the force due to multiple charges. So complete explanation I gave already under the superposition principle. So multiple charges, force due to multiple charges according to superposition principle. And next topic, continuous charge distribution. Continuous charge distribution. So this concept will come into play when charged bodies are extended bodies. If charged bodies are point sized, we can use the Coulomb's inverse square law. Coulomb's inverse square law is applicable only for point charges, not for extended charges. For example, when a charge is given a wire, a long wire, infinitely long wire, or a charge is given to a surface, or a charge is given a three-dimensional picture or cube like rectangular cube, parallelepiped, like this. So here in all these kind of cases, so this continuous charge distribution will comes into play. Here we have three definitions. The first one, so under this heading we have three definitions. First one is linear charge density. Linear charge density denoted with lambda. Linear charge. Whenever a charge is given to a wire, a long wire. See here, let us consider a wire, a long wire or infinitely long wire. This wire is given a charge. Say a positive charge is given to this wire. A positive charge is given to this wire. So here as length of wire is very long, let us take here unit length, say dl, and let us imagine that dq is the charge on this length dl. Therefore, definition, linear charge density definition is charge per unit length simply. So lambda is defined as lambda is equal to charge divided by length, that is equal to dq divided by dl, charge per unit length, or dq can be written as lambda into dl. dq is equal to lambda into dl. So for total charge, total wire, therefore total charge q can be written as integral 0 to L or integral lambda into dl. This is unit of this linear charge density. SI unit of lambda is Coulomb per meter. SI unit of linear charge density is Coulomb per meter. Next, second one is surface charge density. Surface charge density denoted with sigma. So whenever a charge is distributed to a surface, then surface charge density is defined as total charge given to a surface divided by surface area. So charge by area, or surface charge density is defined as it is the ratio of total charge divided by total surface area, or simply charge per unit surface area. See here, let us take a surface. So any shape, this is a certain shape, total surface area is S, and this surface is given a charge. And in this, for unit area or small area, let us take here a small area ds. This is ds is the small area, and in this ds, let us imagine that charge is dq. Charge is dq in that particular area. So therefore, sigma can be written as dq divided by ds, or dq is equal to sigma into ds. Therefore, total charge distributed to entire area q can be written as integral total surface, integral sigma into ds. This is and SI unit. SI unit of sigma is coulomb per meter square. SI unit of sigma is coulomb per meter square. And last one under this heading, continuous charge distribution. So volume charge density. Volume charge density denoted with rho. Let us now assume that a cube shaped body. A cube. This cube is given. This cube is given a charge. So when a charge is distributed to the complete volume, see here, charge is distributed to a complete volume. In this, let us now imagine that a small volume dV on which charge is assumed as dq. So that volume charge density rho is defined as total charge divided by total volume or charge per unit volume. So volume charge density is defined as charge per unit volume. That is, for small volume, for small volume dV, rho can be written as, so dq divided by dV, or on this small volume charge is equal to rho into dV. Charge is equal to rho into dV on that small volume, or total charge which is given to a complete body. Total charge Q is equal to integral V total volume rho into dV. And SI unit of rho is, SI unit of volume charge density is coulomb per meter cube.